get home totally exhausted. The clock says midnight, and the only thing you've built today is another layer of fatigue. Your body's heavy, your brain's buzzing, and deep down, you feel that silent guilt. Another evening gone, and nothing to show for it. You told yourself you'd work on your side project, write that chapter, learn that skill, but instead, you just sat there, scrolling through other people's progress until the night disappeared. It's not laziness. It's not lack of willpower. It's that your mind has been running on survival mode all day, and you're trying to create with the same brain that's been fighting deadlines, pressure, and constant noise since 9 a.m. You're running a creative marathon with a survival toolkit, and it's no wonder you feel empty when you reach the finish line. But what if exhaustion wasn't the enemy? What if it was the signal, the moment your mind becomes quiet enough for something deeper to take over? The Japanese discovered this centuries ago. Instead of fighting tiredness, they used it. They turned fatigue into focus, weariness into wisdom, and slow evenings into a sacred window for transformation. They followed 5 philosophical principles, ancient in origin, yet perfectly suited for the chaos of modern life. These principles don't demand more energy. They redirect what little you have left. They turn your tired hours, the ones you usually waste, into the most powerful and productive moments of your day. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly how they did it, how warriors, monks, and craftsmen built legacies after sunset, using systems that worked with human exhaustion, not against it. And once you apply them, your evenings will never feel wasted again. Because this isn't about squeezing out one more hour of work, it's about building a new rhythm, one where tired doesn't mean useless, it means ready. The brain's trap at 6 p.m. Here's what most people never realize. Your brain has modes, just like software, and at 6 p.m., after a full day of tasks, messages, and meetings, it's still running the wrong program. You're trying to build your personal dream using the same mental operating system that's been protecting your job all day. That's like trying to write poetry on an Excel spreadsheet. The system wasn't designed for that. Your work brain is defensive by nature. It's cautious, compliant, optimized for survival, not creation. All day it says yes when you want to say no. It filters ideas through hierarchy, deadlines, and expectations. It plays defense. But when you get home and try to build something for yourself, your art, your side business, your future, you're still using that same defensive circuitry. The result, you stall. You open your laptop, and suddenly everything feels harder than it should. You call it burnout, but it's really a software conflict. The Japanese understood this centuries ago. Samurai trained in what they called different minds for different purposes. There was the combat mind, sharp, reactive, fueled by adrenaline. The strategic mind, calm, deliberate, long-term. And the daily mind, steady, grounded, focused on small repetitions. Miyamoto Musashi wrote about this in the Book of 5 Rings. When one rhythm failed, warriors didn't push harder. They changed rhythm. If aggression stopped working, they switched to patience. If patience turned to weakness, they shifted to precision. That's the key. You can't force creativity with a brain built for survival. You have to switch operating systems. You have to learn when to be the worker and when to become the builder. Otherwise, you'll keep fighting your own mind. A soldier trying to sculpt with a sword instead of a chisel. And that's why most people fail after work. They never make the mental switch. But the samurai had a ritual for that. And that's where the next principle begins. Rituals for switching modes. You can't just flip a switch and expect your brain to obey. The mind doesn't shift on command. It transitions through ritual. But that's why warriors, monks, and craftsmen in Japan built deliberate bridges between one mental state and the next. After a battle, a samurai didn't collapse on the floor and say, "I'm done." He cleaned his blade, polished his armor, and performed quiet maintenance. It wasn't about tidiness. It was about respect for the weapon, for the work, and for the mind that wielded both. That ritual marked the end of survival mode and the beginning of reflection. This transition mattered because it taught the brain to close one rhythm before starting another. Without that closure, energy bleeds between worlds. Modern people don't realize how much energy they lose, dragging unfinished tension from one arena into the next. You leave the office physically, but mentally, you're still there, replaying emails, imaginary arguments, or tomorrow's to-do list. You think you're resting, but you're still fighting invisible battles. The Japanese solved this with symbolic separation. The sword is wiped clean. The tea ceremony begins. The artisan sits at his desk to write a single haiku, not to produce art, but to change frequency. You can do the same thing. When you walk through your front door, make that threshold sacred. No work calls, no Slack, no just checking one thing. That version of you, the employee, the obedient soldier, stays behind. The person who enters your home is the builder. Work you follows orders. Builder you creates value. These are two entirely different programs, and trying to run both at once will crash your system. The transition ritual doesn't have to be ancient or dramatic. It can be as small as changing your clothes, taking a cold shower, or lighting a candle on your desk. What matters isn't the act itself. It's the signal it sends. That world is closed. This one begins. Because until you draw that mental line, you're not free. You're just a tired worker pretending to be a creator. But once you cross that line intentionally, even exhaustion becomes an ally. And that's when the next battle begins. Not against fatigue, but against distraction. You've entered builder mode. The question now is, will you create or will you consume? From consumer to collector. Here's the trap that destroys most evening potential. You leave work, open YouTube, and start learning. You tell yourself you're being productive, that you're studying success stories, absorbing business tips, getting inspired, but you're not learning. You're sedating yourself with inspiration. You're using other people's achievements as a painkiller for your own inaction. Every scroll, every "how I made it" video gives your brain a small dopamine hit. The same chemical rush you'd feel if you had done something, but you didn't. You just watched someone else do it. The mind can't tell the difference, so it rewards you for being passive. That's why you feel satisfied for 10 minutes, then empty again. You got the chemical, but not the progress. The Japanese merchants of the Edo period understood this difference centuries ago. They had a practice called chishiki, no shushu, intelligence gathering. But they didn't binge on random information. They collected tools, patterns, and insights deliberately, storing them for when they were ready to use them. They treated knowledge like a weapon. You sharpen it quietly and only draw it when the battle requires it. That's what you must do with your evenings. Stop being a consumer, become a collector. When you find a useful idea, don't binge it, save it, categorize it. Build your own library of solutions. Every article, every strategy, every piece of wisdom becomes a weapon waiting in your personal arsenal. It's a small shift, but it changes everything. The consumer mindset asks, what can I watch next? The collector mindset asks, what can I use later? Consumers feed their curiosity to feel busy. Collectors starve their curiosity to build leverage. Start tonight. Spend 15 minutes collecting 3 resources that move your future forward. A quote, a strategy, a tool. Save them, organize them. Then walk away. Don't read them yet. Don't act on them. Just build your arsenal, because when the time comes to act, you'll already be armed. But collecting is only half the battle. Having a sword means nothing if you never swing it. And that's where the third principle begins. How to make progress daily, even when you feel completely drained. 1. Cut daily. You're waiting for perfect conditions. That magical evening where the stars align, energy flows, and motivation strikes like lightning. But perfection is the greatest lie ever sold to ambitious people. You'll never have the time, the energy, or the clarity you're waiting for. And that's why you've been stuck. You keep waiting for the right moment, while your dream collects dust. The Japanese swordsman had a philosophy that cut straight through this illusion. Ichi-go, ichi, one moment, one opportunity. Every strike mattered. No wasted motion, no sloppy repetition. Every cut, even in training, was treated as if it were life or death. That's where mastery was built, not in grand sessions of inspiration, but in daily precision. This is what true Kaizen means. Not the corporate buzzword for working harder, but the ancient idea of touching your craft every single day, no matter how briefly. 10 minutes of real action beats 3 hours of planning to act someday. One sentence written beats the perfect novel in your head. One cold call beats an entire spreadsheet of potential clients. The point isn't to finish, it's to maintain contact. Think of it like sharpening a blade. Leave it untouched for too long, and rust takes over. But one stroke a day keeps it alive. 5 minutes may seem insignificant, even insulting to your ambition, but it's the key that separates professionals from dreamers. Because dreamers wait for energy. Professionals build momentum through contact. Your brain learns through consistency, not intensity. Every night you touch your craft, you're whispering to your subconscious. This matters. You're reinforcing identity, not chasing productivity. And soon that identity becomes automatic. You no longer try to build, you just build, because that's who you are. Forget the all-or-nothing mindset. You don't need to conquer your entire list. You just need to touch it once. Progress isn't made through occasional explosions of effort. It's built through small, deliberate cuts that never stop coming. But there's a darker side to this rhythm, because some nights, even a 5-minute touch feels impossible. You're too tired to think, too drained to care. And that's when most people break their streak. The Japanese had a name for this too. The art of keeping the flame alive when everything else has gone cold. The minimum effective dose. Some nights, you won't just be tired, you'll be destroyed. You'll walk through the door feeling like your soul's been wrung dry. Work drained you, people drained you, life drained you. And when that happens, your mind whispers, just skip today. You'll make up for it tomorrow. But tomorrow never arrives. That's how progress dies, not with one big failure, but through a slow accumulation of zeros. The Japanese craftsmen understood this problem centuries ago. They called it preserving the ember, keeping just enough fire alive to survive the night. Because once the flame dies completely, you don't just lose warmth, you lose continuity. Momentum is fragile. Every time you hit zero, restarting becomes 10 times harder. This is where the minimum effective dose comes in. On your worst days, you don't aim to advance. You aim to maintain proof of life. If you usually write 1,000 words, write 10. If you usually train for an hour, stretch for 60 seconds. If you normally study a chapter, read 1 paragraph. It's not about effort. It's about sending one clear message to your brain. This still matters. Think of it like a heartbeat. Even weak, it means you're alive. Miss too many beats, and the system flatlines. That's what most people call losing motivation, but it's really losing continuity. Your goal on bad days is not to win. It's to avoid dying. One push-up, one sketch, one idea. Keep the pattern alive. Because once you preserve the pattern, momentum will return on its own. The samurai called this guarding the spirit. They knew battles weren't lost from exhaustion. They were lost when the warrior stopped showing up, when he let his flame go out. So when life hits hardest, lower the bar until it's impossible to fail. Make your victory microscopic, because one action keeps you in the game, but 0 ends it forever. And when you master this, when you can stay consistent even at your weakest, you reach the final principle. The one that separates effort from evolution. The one that turns noise into insight, exhaustion into clarity. The power of strategic emptiness. Strategic void, ma. You've switched modes, collected tools, taken daily action, and kept your flame alive. Yet something still feels off. You're doing everything right, but it's like running in place. And that's because you've forgotten the most important ingredient of all: nothingness. In Japan, this concept is called ma, the space between things. It's the silence between notes that gives music its emotion, the pause between words that gives conversation its meaning. Without space, everything collapses into noise, and that's exactly what modern life has become. Constant noise. Podcasts while driving, YouTube while eating, scrolling while brushing your teeth. You're so terrified of silence that you fill every second with stimulation. But silence isn't emptiness. It's integration. It's the moment your subconscious processes everything you've collected and practiced. The samurai meditated, not to escape the world, but to digest it. Zen masters sat in stillness because they knew creativity doesn't come from more input. It comes from allowing what's already inside to rearrange itself. Your brain is an incredible machine, but it's not designed for endless consumption. Every idea you absorb needs space to connect, recombine, and evolve. Without that pause, your thoughts are like puzzle pieces dumped on the floor, scattered brilliance with no pattern. So build deliberate silence into your evenings. After work mode, 5 minutes of nothing. After collecting knowledge, 5 minutes of nothing. After your daily action, 5 minutes of nothing. No phone, no music, no breathing technique, just stillness. Let your thoughts wander without supervision. That's when your best ideas surface, not when you chase them, but when you give them permission to appear. The world's greatest thinkers knew this. Tesla imagined inventions in silence. Einstein solved equations while daydreaming. Japanese poets called it the art of fertile emptiness. You don't need more content. You need space for wisdom to grow. Because Ma isn't the absence of work. It's the soil where your next breakthrough takes root. And when you learn to sit inside that silence, without distraction, something profound happens. Your mind stops chasing noise and starts generating truth. Building time. By now, you understand what the Japanese mastered long before the modern self-help industry even existed. They didn't fight exhaustion. They learned to use it. They built entire systems around the natural rhythm of being human, not the fantasy of being endlessly productive. First, they switched modes, separating the warrior from the builder, the worker from the creator, because progress demands a new identity, not more effort. Then they collected weapons, ideas, tools, and insights, but never wasted them through mindless consumption. They gathered knowledge like arrows for future battles. They struck once daily. Even the smallest action, done with full intention, cut deeper than hours of uncommitted effort. They protected progress with the minimum effective dose, keeping the flame alive through life's storms. One word, one note, one step. Never zero. And finally, they created strategic voids, knowing that silence is not a pause in progress, but the secret chamber where real breakthroughs form. When all 5 principles work together, your evening stops being a graveyard for wasted energy. It becomes a laboratory for transformation. The hours after work aren't leftovers. They're your most powerful hours, because they belong entirely to you. You don't need a new schedule. You need a new rhythm. Switch modes when you walk through the door. Collect with intention. Strike once daily. Keep the flame alive. And give yourself space to breathe. That's the Japanese system. Simple, human, and built to last centuries. Your future won't be built in grand moments of inspiration. It'll be built on tired Tuesday nights, when you act anyway. On Thursdays when you collect instead of scroll. On Sundays when you protect your streak, even when you're drained. Those moments add up quietly, invisibly, until one day you realize something changed. You're not waiting for energy anymore. You are energy. You've built a rhythm that carries you. So tonight, don't chase perfection. Don't promise the world. Just make one cut. Collect one tool. Keep one flame. Sit in 1 minute of silence. That's how dreams are built, not through massive leaps, but through the quiet art of showing up when the world sleeps.